I did see it coming because really what this is about, Israel has to maintain its sovereignty. It has to keep itself safe from a perceived threat from Gaza. And basically, it's not necessarily the Palestinians. They don't look at the Palestinians as a threat. They look at, obviously, Hezbollah or Hamas as a threat. And they're just saying, hey, we eradicated Hamas, for the most part, from Gaza. Why would we leave only for Hamas to come back inside? So at least on the temporary, time span, you are going to see Israelis occupy Gaza until there is a plan for success in the region and sustainable peace.
I don't think that I've heard in the past, and I can't specify exactly where, but it's been made, I think, pretty clear that the Israelis do not want to permanently occupy Gaza. I mean, you go back and you look at the history of the Gaza Strip. Israelis pulled out of there, 20 years ago, and left the Palestinians to govern themselves, and they wound up with Hamas running that area. And, of course, we know Hamas cares nothing about human life. And the people have suffered, and they've suffered tremendously. And I truly believe a lot of the rank-and-file support for Hamas is brought on by, being intimidated. They've been coerced into having to put up with this form of government or face, some severe penalties. Are you, what am I looking at here? Tal Heinrich. Have you heard of Tal Heinrich? She's an Israeli journalist who at one time was an advisor to Netanyahu. She was on Fox last night, and this is what she has to say about what she believes Israel's next move in Gaza will be. Let's see if we can get it to play.
You see, the Prime Minister and his cabinet stated from day one of this war, right after the October 7th massacre, that the end goal for Gaza is to eliminate Hamas, remove them from power. This terror group can no longer be in control of its own territory. No life-loving nation would have allowed that. Agree with me in that. And then the return of our hostages. That's another end goal for a war there. They must come back home. And we must ensure that Gaza will never, ever pose a terror threat to Israel again. Now, we were actually in recent weeks getting closer to achieving, according to several official accounts, to achieving a new hostage release deal in exchange for a 60-day ceasefire. But that opportunity seemed to have slipped away because some Western useful idiots, let's call them this way, put the pressure on Israel. And as you stated, they said that they're going to recognize a Palestinian state, and they are rewarding Hamas for their vile actions, not only against our hostages and our citizens, but also their own population. They are incentivizing Hamas's sick methods of war by turning October 7th to some Palestinian Independence Day. And the truth of the matter is, Trey, that October 7th happened because the Palestinians had a state, their self-controlled Gaza. It was the pilot program for their own state. And if some people are out there going to, watching this telling me that, well, Tal, it wasn't a real state, well, you know what? It's like saying that real communism was never tried. That was a state, a terrorist state, and they have a second terrorist state under the control of the Palestinian Authority. The only reason why October 7th didn't emerge from there is because Israel has security access and security control over there. That's why.
So that, and she's right. I think you would agree, Barry, that this pretty much lays out what Hamas is, and Hezbollah, for that matter, as well. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, she made some very, very good points. And, just for the listeners this morning, the end of Hamas is going to look a lot like the end of the Nazis after World War II. I mean, to the point where the Nazi Party is eradicated, cannot exist any longer. Even a Nazi symbol, the swastika in Germany today, is illegal. Even a Nazi salute is illegal. So I would expect it to be almost exactly like that with Hamas, to where a complete eradication of it, simply because they're the ones that claimed responsibility for the October 7th attack. So they've got to go. And they're holding hostages because that's their last lifeline. Literally, those hostages are their oxygen tank to stay alive another day. And they know when, the hostages get released, they cease to exist. Now, they can make bargains and deals with the Israeli governments to not be killed in a military action and maybe, live happily ever after somewhere else, maybe even Russia. But if these guys don't stop this and Israel has to get these hostages, which they will, they are going to go in. There's no doubt about that at this point because of the recent film that's been released of hostages. But if Hamas, or what remains of it, decides to fight this out to the last tooth, these guys, Israel, the Mossad, they are going to take these guys out, and any chance they had to even run away with their lives and live somewhere else will be gone.
The Mossad is an incredible organization. We train with them all the time, and there's a lot of joint training goes on between our intelligence forces and theirs. And it just surprises me. I was absolutely amazed at some of the actions that Mossad was able to generate through their intelligence gathering, and how deep they had gotten within the organization of Hamas and Hezbollah as well, and how deep they've gotten into the Iran government and to the folks that they have working over in Iran to supply them with information. That was abundantly clear, when the war came and they were hitting specific targets, very precisely, in order to try to avoid, civilian casualties, but take out their nuclear program. We're talking with Barry Donadio for Public Security LLC. I'm Bill Reddish, sitting in for Mike Bradley.